There were quite a few people that stayed, and it made us feel better about leaving our town, knowing that there were people here that knew our homes. And not that anybody would come in and hurt our homes, but when a whole town evacuates, the whole town, 2,000 people, when you have a handful that have the balls and the courage to stay, and they did, and they went from house to house and made sure things were okay. And that was their part in our progress, and that was their part of our recovery.
Like the biggest thing going on in town was like there was the town meeting, and it was like every morning, really early, there was the town briefing, and everyone would gather at the park, and it would be like a scream fest back and forth between the sheriffs and the town, and they'd be like, it's gonna be months before anything is normal again. You guys need to leave. At first, they're halfway amused by it because they know what to expect from Lyons, and they love the town, and so there's like a rapport there, a lot of first name basis going on, but at the same time they're having to like put their foot down and be like, Gary, damn it, Gary, you gotta leave your house, man. You gotta leave. And nobody wanted to leave, and you could tell quickly that they were real worn out. I mean, they were working their asses off, not sleeping and just burning it at both ends. Eventually no room for humor anymore.
So there were all these little kind of camps and stashes, and but very communal. There was no greed involved. It was just like, well, here's where this is, and here's where that is, and oh, this person has this.
To go from like my normal, waking up and going and teaching second grade to like absolute survival mode, like when's the next meeting, when are we going to find out, what's the next step? If you left, you couldn't come back. So I stayed. And I proceeded to stay in Lyons for another 2 weeks.
I ended up staying for about 2.5 months.
And I don't know if I wish I would have left, or it's like I'm grateful for the experience of staying, but at the same time it feels a little dark sometimes. Anything that wasn't completely rooted, whether it was a structure or a relationship or an idea or a feeling, it was washed away. And it's like I feel like it was like a rebirth in a way, a very painful rebirth.
I feel like the shoreline has been cleared of a lot of debris inside my own personal process. So I can look around and see things perhaps a little more clearly than I was doing that 5 months ago. Lots of friends of ours that really have stayed away and out of all of these events, and at some point you have to go like take the hit and immerse yourself a little bit in some of the uncomfortableness of being around here. I just drove up Left Hand Canyon the other day coming down from Ward for the first time, and it was just nightmarish up there. A very uncomfortable thing to just look at, the damage that has gone on. But I need that information. I live here. This is part of my world. Because the premise is like safely disconnected, and I think there is no safe disconnect. You're just disconnected. The question is whether you're going to like get out of town or whether you want to be with that. And at one level, it's a frightening thing to do. I think the one thing that's obvious is one has no really personal control over this. It's whether you like being there. And I got to say that I do, but it is scary at times. If you want to be a creative person living in that life, then you can't be constantly thrown out of your own vision by your fear. You'd like to think that there's no discomfort in life, but sorry. And so part of that process of looking at your own source is uncomfortable. The act of art is somehow to look into that water and be with it in some way and see what comes up, and things like surface in front of you. Some people use the wellspring as an image, but this is much more violent than a cute little well. And there's something about saying back to the river, bring my life. I'm still here. I'm ready. Bring the next page.
The bond of going through a tragedy like this has really formed friendships that I never would have seen coming or didn't even know could exist.
It was really nice to form some bonds with people that I hadn't before. It really showed the spirit of everyone that was there. So it was impressive.
That bond of community and relying on people was really foreign to me.
The one thing that a huge disaster can show you is how strong a community can be. I mean, there was just so much kindness and love and help and people reaching out to another. It was amazing. and you know, all the volunteers that showed up. I think the first Saturday that they allowed volunteer networking groups to come in, there was 800 people here. I had up to 18 people staying at this house at one point. So I had an army of my own. So we would send all the volunteers that would just randomly show up at my place to the house next door, say, you know, go down there. I know that person's in huge trouble and she's by herself. Or somebody found me on Facebook out of Denver, and he brought up a skid steer and 8 of his friends, and they spent a whole day out of the kindness of their hearts. You know, he brought a skid steer up on the back of his trailer and helped dig out the exterior of the property so we could pull off the siding. So random acts of kindness were everywhere.
It makes you aware of how important life is and how important the human being is, and how quickly we forget the human consciousness when we're caught up with the day-to-day. It makes you very aware of how important community is, how important relationships are.
We're already sort of a perfect sized little town to actually navigate connection with each other. And so we've had this big experience together. So I feel like this potential to really rally to another level of connection, because I think it's already here. We've all experienced, you know, you could call it grief, or, you know, you could call it even wonder on some level. I mean, this thing that came through here, you don't ever get to see. And I'm feeling that where I go, I'm much more willing to extend, connect, say hello, my name is, you know, and I don't feel that hesitancy about connection. It's almost like it's my duty. I mean, that's really it, a willingness to step up and not say, this doesn't relate to me. I think there's just this innate sense of it does relate to me. When nature shows up in that force, what happens is humans connect. They go to knock on your door, get up, there's a flood, come on. You know, it's just natural. I mean, we didn't have any warning system out here. There was no fire engine, there was no alarm. We just all did it. You know, my neighbors took a generator up to help somebody who's on oxygen, and it just all happened. It was just like boom, boom, boom. We just did it. And it's just natural to a human being to do that. It's a very, very cool example of nature, is our nature.